Well, hey everybody, welcome to Highly Unlikely with Josh and Jenaye, and we've got a good one for you today. So we're going to introduce you to our friend Brandon Guidry, but known in these parts as Brother Brandon. And why don't you say hi to everybody?
Well, how's it going? Well, thanks for having me on this beautiful day. I know you guys are probably enjoying this North Dakota weather.
Yes.
But thanks for having me. Yeah, so I host Sober Talk with Brother Brandon, the Raging Cajun, on Friday nights on 100.7 FM. That's over at New Song Church.
Here in Bismarck, Mandan.
Or you can check out the show on Facebook. I have a Sober Talk with Brother Brandon, the Raging Cajun. And there's many shows, and every Friday night at 8.
Yeah, tell everybody what Sober Talk is all about, what you guys do.
So Sober Talk is it's a talk show, kind of like a podcast like you have here. And I interview someone every Friday night about their story, their testimony that they went through. The majority of my guests have to do with alcoholism and addiction because that's a big crisis in the world today. But sometimes it's other things, depression, mental health. I had a guest a while back that he's a motivational speaker now. He weighed, I think, 700 pounds, and he had a month to live, and he lost 400.
Wow.
So he came and told his story.
Wow.
And so it's just how people came from darkness to light.
Right.
But I focus a lot on addiction and alcoholism because, me being an addict and alcoholic myself, I've been sober for 4.5 years.
Wow.
So proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And February 12th, 2018 is the day that my life changed forever. And it's been great ever since.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, before we get into it,
Oh, yeah.
because
Wow.
there's a lot to talk about.
How dare we?
But we have to ask a question from the bowl.
Okay.
So you never
What do
know
you
what
call
you're going to get.
Is it the mystery bowl?
What do we call it? Do we have a name for it?
I have no idea.
Might need to name it.
All right. What is the last movie that you saw?
The last movie that I saw at the theater was 2 weeks ago, and it was with August, my son. It was the new Jurassic Park movie.
Really? What did he
yeah.
think?
He loved it.
Yeah, he could handle it, huh?
Yeah, he loved it.
Oh, man. I don't think my kids would sleep.
Right.
Our
He's a
kids,
Jurassic.
Yes.
He's a Jurassic Park fanatic.
That's
Is he?
awesome.
Jurassic
love
Park
that.
and Sonic.
Yeah.
Oh, Sonic. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think he asked me the other day if I can paint his shoes the color of Sonic shoes.
Oh, fun. Man, if we could have August on here, he is seriously one of the cutest kids, and we love him so much.
Yeah, do you want to tell everybody about August?
So August is my son. He's 5 years old. He'll be 6 next month. And he's my best bud, we hang out together. It took till I was 18 months sober to be able to have him in my life. I used to come to church here at Evangel, and I used to see people with their kids, and I was like, man, I would pray and like, God, I want to be able to have the opportunity to bring my son to E-Kids.
Yeah.
And so Tim Harris, shout out to Tim Harris and his wife, they used to pray on me every Sunday for 18 months that I would be able to have him in my life. And the week that I made 18 months sober, it happened.
Wow.
Amazing.
And we've been together ever since.
Yeah.
And so that's the gift of being a parent, is watching the years and the fun and the joy of it. Because children they come naturally into the world full of joy and life and just that heaven connection. And it's the world that over time, as people get older, that can corrupt people.
Yeah.
Right.
But when they're that age, it's just like if you listen to a playground, if you just listen, it's nothing but it's just kids.
Yeah.
It's nothing but joy, and it's pure and natural. So I get to experience that my prayers were actually answered.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've learned as well is that you can pray for something and then you can write down when it came true.
Right.
So you can look back at that.
Right.
And I learned that here, And so, it's a blessing, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity I have to be a father.
Yeah.
And so even just, we want to get into your story a little bit. Obviously, you talked about your journey with addiction and getting sober. And I think I'm wondering, what role did the church play in that? But also, August is about the same age as how long you've been sober, and what role did he play in your journey to sobriety?
Okay. Well, I'll start at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I come from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Can't tell at all.
Right. So, on behalf of New Orleans, Louisiana,
Oh, wow.
I brought you guys a gift.
Oh, man.
It's official Zadarans red beans and rice seasoning.
Wow.
Is this something that we just are missing up here?
No, it's just something that that you can try, and you just add meat and
It says add meat and rice for a one-pot dinner.
there you go. And,
That's great.
That's awesome.
So that's just
Thank
a little
you.
New Orleans twist. And so I grew up there. My mom had me at a very young age, no father. And we grew into a party, Mardi Gras. It's a real Catholic city, but a lot of partying.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of sin.
Yeah.
And so I grew up as that was normal. And then I got the great opportunity to join the United States Air Force
Wow.
at age 17, straight out of high school. So without a father figure and no kind of real guidance as a young man, it was like, go out there and make some of yourself, sonny. We'll see you when you get back, you know? And so first time flying on a plane, I flew to San Antonio, Texas. I was sweating. It was like, you okay? I was like, I think I'm all right. And so I went to my boot camp, my technical school, and then I went to the United Kingdom, England. I got stationed in England for 2 years. And so that's where I started drinking a lot. You know, at 18, you can drink there. And that's what we did. We drank like it was a sport. And
Wow.
at this point, church or any kind of spiritual life isn't even in my my life. And so one thing I've learned in my new life is that an atheist is a person that doesn't believe in anything but their self. And an agnostic is someone that believed in a God or a creator or whatever, and at some point they kind of just turned their back on it and forgot about it. And so that's how I like to look at my life, because when I was growing up as a little kid, I remember going to church with grandma and things of that nature. And then at some point it just was like gone, you know? And so at that point in my life, I'm drinking. I went to Iraq. So I spent 7 years in the United States Air Force. I traveled all over the world. And once I came back from Iraq, I was suffering from PTSD. And I didn't know that. I just suck it up and keep on trucking. You
So
know?
what year was that you came back?
So I joined the military in 2000. I graduated high school in 2000. Shout out to the millenniums. And and so I got out of the military in 2007. And the last time that I went to Iraq, I went in 2005.
Okay.
And I came back in like 2006. And then I started, you know, trying to on my own process and getting out of the military. But I started drinking more. I started taking pills and drugs. But it never occurred to me once that maybe I should pray, you know, or maybe so I've been to so many different spiritual events or churches through my life, but nothing has ever caught my attention like Evangel has. And so I went back to New Orleans after I got out the military. For 10 years. I drank and drugged, and worked. I was always able to keep a good job, but I lived a double life, you know. And so one day, a friend of mine, he said, "Man, they got this job open in Beulah, North Dakota, at the gas plant for the urea project for the company that we already worked for offshore in the Gulf of Mexico." And he said, "Man, it's paying like $40-something an hour per diem." So 4 of us jumped in a truck and drove 28 hours to big old Beulah, North Dakota. And then we got an apartment in big old Glen Ullin.
Where I'm from. There it is. Wow.
That's your
What
connection.
year? What year was that?
The end of 2015.
Okay.
So there's some apartments there. It's these little brick apartments, and it's like one story, and it's a whole bunch of different, and the doors on the outside.
Yeah.
And so we rented an apartment there.
Wow.
Apartment number 1. That's the one I
Wow.
stood in.
Wow.
And so it was like, man, it's beautiful out here. It's nice, but it's nothing. You know, I need civilization. So we started coming to.
For those that don't know, I think my hometown is 800 people, so it is small.
God's country.
God's country. That's right.
So the first place we went was the Dickinson. I think we went to Walmart, and then the next week he started coming to Bismarck on the weekends, and we do what typical people do when they suffer from addiction to alcoholism. They go to bars and they drink. And so I met a woman, and she got pregnant, and so I wound up moving with her in the Mandan in the back of the trailer park with her and all her kids. And so all my friends left, and I stayed. And so now I'm suffering from PTSD, don't know it.
Right.
I'm in a toxic relationship, and so what I do, I go to start going to the local bars more. Next thing you know, I'm doing drugs, heavy drugs. And all drugs should have a Surgeon General warning on each package. You will become homeless. You know? And so what happened was I got to I call it a frozen bottom, not a rock bottom.
Yeah.
And so, and if you want to take somebody from the hottest tropical weather and bring them to Bismarck, North Dakota, and let them feel at negative 40, 50 degrees, only one or two things is going to happen. Either they're going to find a way to change their life, or they're going to start losing fingers.
Right.
So,
did you experience homelessness?
I did.
And was it during some of the coldest months?
It was. And so that's why I call it my frozen bottom.
Seriously.
So I started getting in trouble, which was, I've never been in trouble before. So it was all God's plan for all these things that happened to me. So I started getting in trouble, and I'm just getting to my brokenness, you know. My family, I'm not talking to my family back home. I don't know anybody here. So I'm just to the point where I'm hopeless. Yeah. So one night in 2000, it was the end of 2017, 2018. So it took me 2 years to figure out why God brung me here. I thought originally God brung me here to make a whole bunch of money and fix all of my problems.
Right.
But he had different plans. So one night I'm in the Boulevard laundromat, and it used to stay open 24 hours. I think it closes early now. And I was in there like 2 a.m. and it was like, I was trying to stay warm. So it was like December, January 2017, 18, and it was a cold winter. It was like negative 40, negative 50. So nobody's in there, and this girl comes in, and I've never seen her before, never seen her again. And she said, hey, she's washing clothes. She said, hey, I'm a woman of the cloth. She said, I just want to let you know that the United Way is giving free rooms at the Motel 6 for homeless people because it's so cold. She said, if you go to this place in the morning, you can sign up and they'll give you a room.
Wow.
And she disappeared, and I never seen her again. Wow. And I was like, man.
At
now
2 a.m.?
Now that I look back at it, I was
goodness.
like, man, she was an angel.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and so that's what I did. The next morning, I found the place that she told me to go to. I think it was like Ministry on the Margin or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I signed up, and they taxied me to the hotel, and I got a room, and they give you like these pretzels and stuff to eat. And it was the most darkest point of my life. You know, I didn't have a phone. I didn't have any money. I was alone, and I would just wake up crying, you know, because I was just suffering from depression and sickness and no help. And so I lived there for about a month and a half.
Wow.
Through the holidays, I mean, it was the worst time of my life. Even the other homeless people and drug addicts didn't want to hang out with me. I'd be like, hey, they'd be like, shut the door. Here he comes. And
Totally by yourself.
Yep. And so they would, every day they would serve you dinner at the Ministry on the Margins.
Yep.
So I would go back there, and they would feed you and give you some more snacks and stuff just to get you over to the next day. And I met a lady there that showed me how to sign up for Medicaid. And so that's what I did. I signed up, and I called Heartview, a treatment center, and New Freedom Treatment Center. And I left them messages, and after like a week or two, they called the hotel and left a message for me. And so I called them, and New Freedom Center said, if you get here Monday morning, we'll do an eval on you and we'll see if we accept you. And so I hung up. I was like, y'all are gonna take me, you know? Yeah. And so that was a Thursday. So that's the last day that I ever drank or did drugs. And I stood up all weekend. It was miserable. And I got up that Monday morning and I walked across State Street from the Motel 6 to New Freedom Center with a black garbage bag with my clothes. And I walked in there, and some people say you surrender with a white flag. I surrender with a black garbage bag, you know? Right. And so what I was doing was, in our program of recovery, we have 12 steps. Yeah. So we have steps 1, 2, and 3. And so 1 is figuring out that your life is unmanageable and you're powerless. 2 is that you figured out that there is a God and he can return you to sanity. Do you believe that? And 3 is I surrender.
Right.
I did all 3 of those steps without even knowing it the day I walked over there.
Yeah. Wow.
And so when I walked in, the man that interviewed me said, so why should we accept you here at New Freedom Center? And I was just out of my mind. It was the first time in my life that I ever asked for help. You know, and I finally broke down. I was crying and I was moving around. And I said, I need help. And they accepted me. And so they gave me a bed and they let me go to sleep. And I got to take my clothes out of my bag and put it in the drawers. And I stood there for a whole month. And so while I was there, I found out about Teen Challenge and Hope Manor Sober Living. And this was back then. And so I filled out the applications, and Hope Manor came, interviewed me, and they accepted me with no money. Because at these different sober living houses that they have now, and they offer for people, you pay rent. But a lot of people think that you have to have the money to get in. And they said, well, I don't have any money, so they don't even try.
Right.
So they accepted me. They gave me a chance. And I paid it back after I started working.
Right. Wow.
And so the first time that I ever came to Evangel was when I was in New Freedom Center. Like one Sunday, they had the van, and they said, hey, we going to church. You want to come? And I was like, yeah, I'll go. And it was the old auditorium, and we sat way at the top. And I was like, man, it was weird because I was so used to being up like at night, and it was like all these happy daytime people, you know?
Happy daytime people.
And then they was like, see that guy right there? That's the pastor. And I was like, him? The young guy? I was like, man, he looks like a Christian G-Eazy, you know?
I don't even know what that means.
So it's not a bad thing.
No.
So, but it was a different experience, you know? It was like, man. So at first it was kind of like I had anxiety. But when I got to Hope Manor, the sober living house, it was a house with 12 guys living there and 2 managers. And they accepted me in. Everybody hugged me and showed me love. And on Sundays, shout out to Dave Mann. Dave Mann used to work on the production team, and now he does graphics for Man Signs, and he actually put some of the graphics in the new auditorium.
Yep.
So he used to be a manager at the sober living house.
Okay.
And so he would go jump in his car and he'd be like, hey, I'm leaving in 5 minutes going to Evangel if anybody wants to come on Sundays. So I would go and nobody else would go. And so we'd come in, I'd be like, I want to sit at the top. He was like, no, we're going to sit in the front.
Come on.
So we started sitting in the front row.
Wow.
And I didn't even know what type of church Evangel was or anything for a long time. I just knew that it started to feel good coming here. And I started to close, because I didn't know any of the songs. So I started to close my eyes, and the music and the spirit started to come into my body. And I would start crying. And I'm like, I don't even know why I'm crying. And so I signed up and got baptized. And Dave came with me He brung me, and I got baptized. I still have the video.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
come on. Shout out to Dave, somebody who pulled up his car, drove you to church, sat with you, was there when you got baptized. That's a man.
And so, and also he was a great mentor to me because most of the guys that lived in that house were in their 20s, and Dave was like 40. And I was 35. And so it was, because you get there, you're like, man, what am I even doing here? Like, my life is messed up. It's over. And he gave me hope because he restarted his life over, went back to school. So when he was leaving the house, before he left, he said, I want you to take the Discover course and I want you to start volunteering there. And so he was smart enough to know that if I started volunteering here, that it would kind of seal the deal that I would keep coming.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so
Why is that? Because you get to know people, because...
Exactly. And so he brung me, I took the course on my own. I rode a bicycle here and I took it. And then I took the Alpha course.
Yep.
And so he introduced me to Paul from production. Shout out to the production team.
Yeah, hey.
The best production team in the whole wide world.
Some of them are in the room right now.
They are.
And he introduced me to Paul, and Paul was like, you ever worked in production or did cameras? I was like, no. He was like, well, it's real easy. Just listen. Yeah. So I just jumped into it. It was my first time jumping into something spiritually and grow. It was like I was nervous because I didn't want to mess up. But it was just like, I'm actually doing this.
Yeah.
And so I've been on the production team since 2018. I've been here serving. And that brings up another topic. So another thing that I've learned in my new spiritual journey is that some people like to say, what you doing tomorrow? Oh, I can't do anything. I can't go on the river because I got to go to work. Well, work is not your job. Your job is your employment that pays you a paycheck. Work is your service, what you bring back to the universe. So I look at me working on the production team is my work. You know, it's what I do as service, and I give back to the world and to God's creations. And also my radio show, Sober Talk, that's my work. It's something that has more meaning than just going clock in and clock out. It's something that I'm doing that's impacting and helping people, and it's helping me at the same time. And it feels like that's where I belong. And so that's one thing that I like to try to preach and relay to people is that we're programmed to say, oh, I'm going to work, but that's your job.
Yeah, that's different.
Work is what are you doing to bring back to life, and your calling and your purpose. And that's something that I realized through Evangel, what my purpose is. Because a lot of people say, why you stay in North Dakota? It gets so cold up there. Why you don't go to better weather? You can do it now. Your life's a lot better. It's because I have a purpose here. And that goes back to what I said. Originally, I thought my purpose to come to North Dakota was to work at the gas plant in Beulah and make a whole bunch of money and have material success. But that wasn't the reason that God brought me here. It's something in the North Dakota soil that you can grow and change life. It's God's country. Not just Glen Ellen.
What is so important about what you're saying that I think is going to resonate with people is this is all happening in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Correct.
I think the idea of a guy sitting in a laundromat at 2 a.m. because it's too cold to be outside, living at the Motel 6, not having any answers, just totally broken, thinking you have a plan for your life and that gets disrupted and just trying to figure out what's next for you. I think a lot of people, we don't want to believe that world even exists, or we want to stick our head in the sand and pretend that everybody's just okay all the time. But there's people of the night, like you're talking about. And I mean that in like people that don't have anywhere to go at night, who have to be awake for their survival.
Right.
And I would say too, we're talking to Christians and believers. We can't be ignorant in that. And we love ministry on the margins. We love all the organizations that are available in Bismarck and the surrounding areas. And I would say if you are a follower of Christ, look up in your community what's available, so you're not kind of caught frozen or in your tracks like that woman. She knew where to send you, rather than just going about and folding and doing her clothes, but had the resources to help you. And man, God bless those people, because they're doing such wonderful work in our community.
And so I also like to say, like you said, people of the night. And you know how like you might have a grandparent or a person, and they knew you when your life was okay and you was the person that you were supposed to be, and then you're doing, you're not living right, and they'll just say, oh, so-and-so is just lost. They're just lost. So what I figured out, if I was lost, where was I originally headed in the first place before I got lost? And that's what I like to call my spiritual GPS, my spiritual compass. And I was able to find that and get reconnected to the place I was supposed to be going right here in Bismarck, North Dakota. And it's crazy because for 2 years, I just lived in turmoil. For 2 years here, well, before that, but here. And now it's just like, it's a whole different perspective of all the people that I've met in this new journey. It's like, man, it's so beautiful, and just being cold is not enough to make me want to leave this beautiful land, these beautiful people, that this beautiful spirit that is here.
Well, it's kind of symbolic. And I know you talk about this of, I have my old life and I have my new life, and there's a spiritual element to that of like who you used to be and who you are now. But I think North Dakota and the healing that you've experienced here is obviously a part of your new life, and you associate those things together. I heard somebody ask you, or you were talking to somebody about, man, you've been sober 5 years. How do you stay sober? Because you see people who go in and out, and what's your encouragement to people? How do you stay sober? How do you stay on the path that you're on right now?
So it's one day at a time. And every day that I wake up early. And I was taught some spiritual tools that I keep in my spiritual toolkit, that every day is a different day. I can't stay sober off of yesterday's day. I have to wake up. I physically get on my knees, because I was taught growing up that you say your prayers at night, Well, I didn't even know how to pray. I learned through different mentors that when you pray from your heart, you pray for someone else. When you pray from your head, you're praying for yourself. And so I always start my days by I physically get on my knees when I get out the bed, and I thank God for another 24 hours sober. And I ask him to take over my day, to do thy will and not my will. And then I start praying for other people. I pray for you guys. I pray for my New Song family over at the radio station. I pray for all my sobriety brothers and sisters. I pray for different people. And that's what I was taught, that in order to get out of selfishness in your day, you start your day off by praying for other people, doing stuff for other people. And so I get on my phone and I send out a positive scripture or a message to as many people as I can on my phone every morning. It used to be like 10 people. Now it's like 250.
Stop it. Oh my word.
One by one, phone numbers and on Messenger. And some people, every now and then I get like, what you trying to prove, man? And then some people say, and this happens more often now, that I really appreciate you doing that. You don't know how that saved my life today.
Right.
And so that's what I was taught. So that's how I start every day. And then I meditate a little bit. They say praying is talking to God, and then you meditate for a few minutes and you listen. And so that's one thing I learned to do, is connect. Now, every day having a child that's 5 years old doesn't go that smoothly that it sounds, unless I make sure I wake up and do my thing before he wakes up. And I get to do that a lot. But sometimes it comes later in the morning. It'll come after all of that. But the main thing is you can always restart your day at any time. There's no written rules saying that your day has to be bad or have it twists the rest of the day. You can stop right there and restart your day. It's all up to your perspective of it.
Right.
And so the way that I stay sober is that I go and I speak a lot. We have some built-in forgetters in our head, and we have these little voices in our head that lie to us in our own voice. So it's very deceptive when you got a voice that's your voice in your head telling you, it's okay. You know, you can just do it. You know, you'll be fine. And so I like to go and speak. So every Thursday night, I go to the Morton Burleigh County Detention Center, and I go in with another guy, and we go speak to the inmates.
Wow.
Every Thursday night. And so that's like front line and center. Because 90% of the people that are incarcerated has something to do with drugs or alcohol. Either it was drugs or alcohol that got them arrested, or something they did while they was on drugs or alcohol.
Right.
So we get to go and speak to them. And I speak to them and I tell them my story. And every time that I tell my story to another person, it's putting more insurance on that I remind myself of what I went through, and I never want to go through that again.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, and also it throws out hints and keys to someone that maybe that a similarity in my story will catch their attention.
Yeah.
Because that's what we look for in people. I love listening to speakers. I listen for the similarities, not the differences.
Yeah.
And because that's what'll catch your attention. And that's what also was taught. Also, I go to a ton of sobriety meetings, and I do a lot of service work in the community.
Yeah.
So you have to find something that you can do that doesn't pay money. You have to do something that's service. And I started, and I've never done that before in my whole life. I always wanted something in return. And so I started off at Heaven's Helpers at the soup kitchen. I used to do it. I used to go in once a week. And it was weird because the same people that I was homeless with were on the other side of the counter. And it was like, man, this is weird.
Right.
And so I started doing that. Shout out to Mark at Heaven's Helpers.
Yep.
Great things going on over there. They're always open. And
Yeah.
I haven't been to the Dream Center yet, but there's a new facility that opened up called the Dream Center.
Right.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure I'll be checking that out. But I'm staying involved in retreats. We have a lot of recovery men's retreats, just different scenarios. I went to Newtown, North Dakota a couple weeks ago and spoke for the MHA Nation at their interpretive center. I got to speak there. The governor was there. His wife was there. I just try to stay involved in as many things as I can and try stuff that I never tried before.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I even went skydiving last summer in Fargo.
Fun.
It was fun and games until I passed out. But I just try to do, as many positive things and stay active in the community. There's so much stuff to do here. Is just getting the information.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so much information and so many activities that go on in the community that you just have to stay connected and find out what exactly they have to offer and the resources. And a mentor of mine, he told me a long time ago, if you're going to be in a position to help people, you have to have resources in your community.
Yeah.
You got to know where to lead a person if they come to you.
Right.
And so that's what my life consists of, having resources.
I love that.
Let
me take a couple things that you said and just put it in the context of scripture for people, because I know you're referencing it, but like, for example, the Bible says that we overcome, or we continue to overcome, by the blood of the Lamb, so by the work of Jesus in our lives, and by the word of our testimony. And so even what you're saying is the more that you share about it and the more that you tell your story, that is solidifying the victory that you have in Jesus. There's power in that. But even you went further than that and you said, man, when I tell my story, that can help somebody else know that, man, if I'm free, they can be free. And the Bible also instructs us that the testimony about Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. So when you tell a story about what Jesus has done in your life, you are prophetically or like encouragingly speaking into somebody else's life what Jesus did in your life and what Jesus could do in their life as well. And I just think what's so beautiful about everything that you just said is you're living like someone who has to be dependent on the Lord. And so many of us, we claim to be Christian or we claim to follow Jesus, but we don't really know what it depends on him or what it means to depend on him. But you're saying, man, when I get up in the morning, I got to pray. When I get up, I got to get on my knees. When I get up, I got to get the focus off of myself and onto other people. And that's just like, you've just surrendered and said, I cannot be dependent on myself or I'm not going to make it. And that's not just like a drugs and alcohol thing. That is so many issues in people's lives is because we don't do that. We don't surrender in that way. So I love that you shared that. That's so good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it also, like, 2 scriptures that have been game changing in my life is the one is that stay of a sober mind, that the enemy is like a devouring lion. And I don't know the actual number of it.
Yeah.
But and the other one is God's armor of Ephesians.
Yeah.
So that's one that I've always stuck with me since I've changed my life, is because when I get up in the morning, that's what I'm doing. I'm actually putting on that armor before I go out into the world. And I have to do that, and at first it was a fear that I don't want to ever go through that loneliness and that emptiness and that darkness and that pain. So I'm going to do this before I go outside. I don't care if I forget and I got to do it outside on the sidewalk, And there's times I've been like that, and people probably like, what is that crazy dude doing? But my life has been beautiful and steady growing, and it's never been this way that it has been since I've surrendered.
Yeah, well, it's been a beautiful thing to watch.
Right.
Too.
And I just think all the things you just talked about, what you do, in addition, you're a wonderful dad. And I just love seeing you in August. And you serve and you're there on Sundays, and then you guys are walking through the lobby together. And so just so proud of you for just the steps that you've taken. And I love even in your story of where you described, and I filled out that application. And, it's not that God just swooped down and just saved you out of all the things that you had kind of led to with your decisions, but in him working in your life, you took action and responsibility. And I think that's such a wonderful, just example to so many people, but we're just so proud of you.
Yeah. We're going to stop in just a minute, but I know you said you have a question for us.
Okay.
So I want you to be able to get to your question before we're done.
All right. Well, before I answer the question, I have a couple more gifts for you.
Man, this is...
So I brought you the official Sober Talk hats.
Yes.
I wasn't sure what color would fit Josh, but I went with the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, thank you,
That is
man.
great.
What a guy.
Thank you so much.
I love it.
This is so
You're
great.
so kind.
If I didn't already have a hat on, but...
This here, I believe this came from one of my great-grandparents' house.
No kidding.
And this is a gift for you.
Oh,
it's a Jesus rug. It's
Yes.
a little prayer rug. And you can use it for whatever you want, but this is for you.
That's special,
Oh,
man.
thank you. You're so sweet. First time I think we ever have gotten gifts on the show.
I know. This is a
So
first.
kind.
All right.
Thanks, Brandon.
So now let's get to the real questions.
Oh, boy. Okay, here we go.
Oh, golly.
Okay. And this one's for Josh. If you were a cartoon character, who would you be?
Don't look at me.
Ooh, Jerry the Mouse.
Okay, the Tom and Jerry?
Yeah, he always wins.
Okay.
He never, the bad guy never gets him. He wins on every show.
What about you? What about you, Jenaye?
Oh, I was thinking of what our kids watch, and I was just picking the favorite show is Bluey. And I just would want to be a part of Bluey's family. So
Yeah.
one of the mom probably.
The mom.
Right. I know August would want to be Sonic.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
And I would probably want to be Pepe Le Pew, the French lady. Okay, next thing. So before COVID hit, one of my callings that God had put into me, that a vision that I wanted to take the Holy Land tour. But then COVID hit, and then it kind of just, went into Operation COVID.
Yeah.
So out of the Holy Land tour that you've been, what is your favorite spot there? Like, what spot is like the spot?
Yeah. We have rescheduled the Holy Land tour like 3 times, but we're going to go again. So you're going to get an opportunity. But, that's That's a really hard question because there's so much, but I think probably the two spots that were my favorite. There was probably no space as significant to the group as the Sea of Galilee. I mean, both when we first saw it and then when everybody was like on the boat together, there's just a sacredness of knowing what happened on that water and in the villages, like where Jesus called his disciples, taught people like that. That's where he dwelled. Not just where he was born or where he died in other places, but in the place where he actually like really established his ministry. There was something so powerful about the Sea of Galilee. The other one is they had recently discovered a synagogue where Jesus had actually taught, and they had found some of the actual stuff that Jesus would have used, and it was a brand new discovery. So that was significant. As a pastor, as somebody who teaches, that was significant to see that. So that's a great question.
It's a really great question.
Thanks for asking.
I just wanted to ask because I remember seeing you on the screen when you were there.
Oh, yes.
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
So I remember you being there. So I just wanted to know.
Yeah, I mean, I would just tell everybody it's not a trip. It is an experience.
Right.
And my faith and my theology grew so much from the time I spent there. Everybody should go.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, before we're done, I do have a couple questions.
Okay.
I know I always make us go long. It's my fault. But I think even in regards to Sober Talk, you said you've had over 100 guests?
Yep.
When you've talked to people about their story of addiction, sobriety, everything in between, what have you seen any common themes, or have you seen anything that is pretty common between the stories of those people?
So one thing I've noticed is that all our stories start off different. Like you're from Glen Ellen, I'm from New Orleans.
Right.
So-and-so is from wherever. But they always end the same. Loneliness, in jail, alone, in a car or in a hotel. Yeah. You know, it always ends with the same destruction. It's either you lose your kids, you know, you can't. And so to me, what happens that I notice is that around age 13 or 14, middle school, going to fixing to go to high school, there's always some other kids and they want to be cool and they want to try, you know? So, I was with my cousin and I tried drinking for the first time because I always ask, how old were you when you first tried drugs or alcohol? Right. And the number one average is that age. You know, it changes. Like mine's younger. Some people are not till they're 18, but a lot of them is around middle school. That I've noticed, that's probably the number one factor that I found that everybody has in common. That around age 12 through 14, that middle school time, that's when they first tried alcohol or drugs.
Well, that's kind of the deception of it, right? I'm going to do this to be in with other people and in community and to belong, but it's going to leave me alone.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that's probably the number one factor that I found. And then they all say that, because I asked, well, how was your spiritual life growing up? Some people, here's a lot of traditional native ways, or some people were in church and, they had a grandmother that brought them in church and they went to Bible school and they did the whole nine. But somewhere in middle school, they started drinking and drugging, or someone died and they didn't know how to grieve. So they started trying drugs and alcohol. Yeah. And then spiritual life went out the window.
Yeah. And
until they found a spiritual program that helped them stay sober. Yeah. They didn't have any kind of, life as far as Jesus, God, Holy Spirit, any kind of anything. It was just, they were just contained. So I like to say that drugs and alcohol, it kind of curses our spirit.
Wow.
And that's when I'm explaining to people, I like to use metaphors and, pictures and stuff. And it's kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean with the gold. If they go in the light, they're cursed. And so it's the same thing with the drugs and alcohol. A lot of people never get that lifted off of them. It's just it's an ongoing battle. And so me being in the program and God leading me the way he wanted me to go, it led me to Evangel. And through that, I found one of the greatest churches and organizations I've ever been a part of, you know, because I've never, ever felt the feeling of safeness and the feeling of the Spirit like I felt here. And love and acceptance, you know, and people just accepting me. Because I was like, man, you know, you go places and you think that you're so far down the line that there's no return for you. Yeah. But don't ever think that you're too far to change your life around. Because what I found was Jesus and God was there with me the whole time. All I had to do was turn around and look, you know, and he was there with me the whole time. And people think that they're so far gone, but that's the great lie. The great lie is that you think that you're not good enough. You know, you think all these negative and all this fear, you know, because worry is the meditation of fear, you know? And so I also learned in my new life that you can replant your roots, your spiritual roots. So if you replant your foundation of your roots and you grow a tree of faith, the fruit that grows on that tree is love, joy, you know, caring, integrity, you know, and so before then, my tree, you can look at the fruit that the tree is growing is fear, jealousy, envy, greed, you know, all that goes together with that one tree. And so when you're able to reroot yourself and plant, and then all kind of other things start to manifest from that tree.
That's so good.
And so that's some things that I've learned about myself through my journey. And that's just listening to different people, having different mentors. I have spiritual mentors. I have financial mentors. Shout out to Bob Beck and the Dave Ramsey course.
Come on.
We're big Dave Ramsey people.
And so I have parenting mentors. You know, I have different people in different aspects of my life that I talk to about stuff. Because the enemy wants us to be alone. He wants us to isolate and try to figure stuff out on our own. And me trying to figure stuff out on my own doesn't work that well. You know? And so I'm very thankful that I reach out and I have people that I can call and I have people that I can talk to about stuff. And it doesn't have to be inside me and start causing these spiritual sicknesses anymore. Not saying that I'm perfect, but I'm aware. And I can notice it and I can start to work on it and try to see, okay, how can we address this situation?
Love that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have another one. Fine. But I think even as the church is a part of your story, and I love you said grow new roots, and I think, you were planted in God's house, which is really beautiful. But from your perspective and maybe even your friends' perspectives, what is something that the church, doesn't have to be evangel, but the church as a whole is maybe getting right in helping those that find themselves in addiction? And what could we really improve on or grow in as the global church or even the local church?
Well, I think all I can speak for is my experience. And that when I came here, it was just like everybody was happy. It wasn't like all uptight. And they had great music, you know, and not only did they have great music, they had a great pastor giving a great message. And he had a lot of life in him. And so, and the kids, the E-kids is one thing that, like, man, I need to get my son here. You know, I need to get him, I want to get him in that, and I want to get him part of that. And shout out to E-kids and the E-kids pastor. He's amazing. And so that's great things going on in there. And so I think though that a lot of people worry about judgment. You know, they're gonna judge me because of this or because of that. But it's not like that at Evangel, you know, and it's not like that from my experience, you know, and I felt that from the time I started coming here, I just wanted to spend all my free time here because I didn't feel safe out there, you know, and it was chances that I could make a mistake. Here it was just like so much love and people invite you to their house and feed you and, you know, and it was just, it just was very welcoming and it felt very comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, and I try to, you know, tell people, come on, check it out and stuff like that. But when people come here that know me from other places and they see me here and how like I do, you know, I work on a production team and I'm like family here, it gives people like, man, if he's doing it, I should come here more often as well, you know, and people do. And I see people all over the place. And it's a great feeling that we realize that we're all really one big family. You know, no matter if you come to church here or not, we're all God's children. And so that's what I love about this community as well, is that everywhere I go, I know people and people know me, and they reach it. You know, if I need anything or if they need anything, we're all here to help each other. And that's how life is supposed to be. You know, but it wasn't like that before. But the only reason it wasn't like that is because of me. You know, it's because of the fear and the wrong roots I was rooted in. And there's a lot of people that don't even know why they feel like that. You know, so I feel that that Evangel is doing a great job at welcoming people, at you know, just making people feel comfortable. And it's the main thing is just getting people in the doors and get them through that whole judgment and this and that. You know, it's just come check it out. You know? Just come get some coffee, get some tea. You know, bring the kids. You know, or whatever. And I just think it's a great place.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because I know something that is so important to us is that people can feel like they belong here before they ever believe anything, before they ever become a follower of Jesus, that they say, you know what, I can explore my faith, I can go on the journey, and that's accepted here for me to figure it out, because I don't have it figured out. And I know there's people that come that don't have it figured out, but I want people to know they can come and figure it out once they get here. They don't have to have it all together before they can walk in the door. So we're so proud of you, man.
Thank
you. As a dad and everything you're doing to serve other people in the community and using your story just to bless other people. And you do have like the sweetest, most beautiful son. He's just awesome. He's my buddy.
Also, fun fact, I think people need to know, I think you're the only one who has the Evangel logo tattooed on them.
On your body.
Is that correct? I have yet to see anyone else claim that.
I couldn't believe it the day you showed that to me.
That's how much of an impact it had on my life.
Seriously.
Right next to my sobriety date.
I love that.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. So we're, you know, Evangel's great and we love this church, but we're just so grateful for the work of the Lord in your life, and we know it's not done.
The whole community is, I don't know, it's something in the soil in North Dakota. It's great soil here. That's why there's so many farmers.
That's so true. Well, thank you, Brandon, for taking the time to come and share your story and
for the gifts.
The gifts, and so sweet, and the great conversation. So,
well, thanks for having me.
Yes,
you know, I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, for those of you listening, if you have not yet, please subscribe to the podcast if you've enjoyed it. Share it with your friends, or rate it on iTunes Podcasts. So, we love you guys, and we'll see you next episode.